Hello, America. Happy 4th of July. Welcome to this very special holiday edition of Just the News, No Noise. I'm your host, John Solomon, reporting as always from the nation's capital. And I'm going to bring in my amazing co-host, Amanda Head. Amanda, this today kicks off a one-year celebration towards the 250th anniversary of America. A year ago, we were talking about freedom being on life support, and it feels like 6 months into the Trump presidency. We're free to do the things that we thought we always were free to do, free to raise our kids the way we want, free to be a woman and just compete in women's sports without guys in it, free to speak again without being censored. What a difference a year has made. What a difference one election made.
Absolutely. And, you know, I as I look forward to these next 365 days of the festivities that are going to be taking place, my mom still has glasses from the, what was that, the bicentennial, in 1976. So I know that type of stuff is going to be happening.
You weren't there, were you?
I wasn't there. I wasn't born yet. I wasn't even a twinkle in my parents' eyes yet, but I love stuff like that, and I cannot wait to see what's going to be happening, frankly, in cities across the country over the next year, but especially places like D.C., Boston, Philadelphia, New York.
Folk cities that have this rich history of the liberty and founding of this country.
They're going to have to cough up some patriotism.
Yeah, they're going to have to. I think things are moving in that direction, right? The mayor here seems to be already moving in that direction. So.
And we have a guest today, Emily Sturge with Campus Reform, who's going to be able to speak on that as well.
I love it. Well, we got the perfect way to kick off this 4th of July, a true American patriot. Can't think of a better way to kick off this 4th of July than with our first guest. He is one of the greatest actors of his generation, Forrest Gump, The Green Mile, Apollo 13, which is my son's favorite movie, by the way. Also the founder of one of the most impactful foundations and charities in America, the Gary Sinise Foundation, which is devoted to helping the brave service members in our great country. Joining us now, our good friend, Gary Sinise. Gary, good to have you on. Happy 4th of July.
Oh, do you too. Thanks so much for having me.
I was thinking this morning of one of my favorite lines from John Adams. He said that liberty once lost is lost forever. The men and women that sat on that front line each of these last 249 years to make sure we kept that liberty, that freedom, they are, I know, forefront in your mind. Tell us on the 14th anniversary of the founding of your foundation what you're doing to help them.
Oh, gosh. How much time you have, John? We have multiple programs at the Gary Sinise Foundation operating on multiple fronts because, prior to the foundation, I was engaged with a lot of different nonprofits, a lot of different military, veteran, first responder support organizations, traveling here and there and meeting a lot of different people that needed help to help our service members. So I got very involved in many different ways. And then when I started the foundation 14 years ago, I wanted to just dig in and do a lot of what I was already doing. So we have a very broad mission at the Gary Sinise Foundation.
Amazing.
Gary, I know that for our veterans, having proper and sufficient VA service is top of the list, and that's obviously governmental. But for American citizens, for people watching this show, what are the greatest needs of our nation's veterans in ways that they can help?
Oh, there are multiple ways that you can help. You know, people always ask me, beyond my organization, where they should place their support and what are the great organizations? I used to support about 30 different organizations before I had my own that were doing a lot of different things, helping our wounded, taking care of our families of our fallen heroes on many fronts, first responders, outreach there. First responders are struggling and sacrificing each and every day. So people would ask me, and one thing that I would say is, while there are many good organizations like the Gary Sinise Foundation that you can support, and of course we always want to do more at the Gary Sinise Foundation, so we need more support. One of the things that I always say is just look within your own neighborhood, your own community, your own town, your own city, at the veterans and military families that reside within those communities. There are veterans and military families in every community in the country. And if we took some responsibility to pat them on the back and reach out and touch them and offer assistance if needed, all those problems that we hear, veterans falling through the cracks and, waiting in line and all the things that we hear about that, maybe the government falls short on. If we as citizens just took some responsibility and took the opportunity really to reach out and touch these folks, that problem would be greatly reduced. We wouldn't be hearing about veterans falling through the cracks. And that's what I did. And that's what multiple other organizations did that I got involved with, that just wanted to do something to support, especially after September 11th, 2001, deploying to Afghanistan, deploying to Iraq, people getting hurt, people getting killed, families losing loved ones, bad things happening. A lot of people picked up the charge. They took up the charge to help. And many, many different organizations were started. I got involved with many that were operating, like I said, in multiple ways on different fronts. So first thing I would say is, are there veterans in your own community that just you can reach out and touch? And by doing that, I say just simply the gesture of appreciation and gratitude for providing our freedom for us. And we all know that these men and women are our freedom providers. That's the job they've chosen. And it sometimes can be a very dangerous job, and people can lose their lives and, be injured in battle. We all can take some responsibility for our defenders and just embrace them and help them out when needed. And then certainly you can support great organizations that are out there that have come up, that are raising money to deploy those resources all over the place.
Yeah, so important. You led by example. You went and did it yourself, and it does start with us. We got to jump into that void whenever we can. Gary, I want to talk a little bit about the next year, because as of today, we're starting our 250th birthday celebration here in America. It's a great, exciting time to just celebrate all that we've been through. As you reflect on those 250 years, what comes to mind? What will be most important to you over the next year?
Continuing to express my gratitude to those who have defended us and kept us free, those who sacrifice. My foundation, the whole point of my foundation is remembrance, gratitude, appreciation, and support. And we want the men and women who serve our country to know that there's a grateful nation behind them. I wrote a book in 2019. It came out February 2019, called Grateful American, A Journey from Self to Service. And it really is about my recognition that the freedom that I've been allowed to enjoy in this country, comes at a price and comes at a cost. And there are people that are willing to sacrifice for that. I'm a grateful American. I got a church shirt on here. It says Grateful American.
I love that.
That's I don't think there's a better way to express ourselves than to kind of just stop for a second, recognize that this is an exceptional country. We've been allowed to live a certain way of life here in this country because of the freedom that we have, that a lot of people don't get to enjoy around the world. I mean, not everybody is free. I've been to the border between North and South Korea. I've stood there. I've stood 2 feet away from a North Korean guard, standing on his side of the border, staring at me in the face. And he's a slave. That person has no clue what real freedom is. He's a slave to the supreme leader there. And there are places on earth like that where they don't really understand what being free is all about. Freedom has to be fought for. It has to be protected. It has to be defended. There are people that are willing to do that in this country. And so I'm grateful for them, and I want to remember them always. So this whole year is going to be about what can we do to acknowledge and support the men and women who keep us free.
Gary, there aren't a lot of heroes like you in Hollywood anymore, people who honor veterans and seek out ways to help them. It wasn't always like that. I mean, there was one time when actors and comedians and singers would relish the opportunity to perform with USO overseas for our troops. But we've seen a little bit of a turn, I think, recently with movies like Top Gun Maverick and right now in theaters F1 that seem to have a little bit more of a patriotic theme to them. Do you think that Hollywood is going to turn back in the direction of patriotism anytime soon?
It's hard. I mean, Hollywood is a business. It's there to make money. Obviously there are ideologues in like in any business. They're in Hollywood too. But the more movies that are pro-American that actually make a good profit, the more that will be made. I mean, Maverick was incredible.
Yeah.
You know
Yeah, it was.
Yeah.
what that did at the box office, and it brought back a great feeling about this country. Plus it was just a great fun movie. And Cruise is, he continues to put it out there like nobody. So that was exciting. I remember going to that movie with my son and seeing it. I think the more success that movies like that have, the more will be made. Absolutely.
Yeah, it makes a lot of sense. And America's response to that movie, I think, was a big, loud message to the industry at large. You said you're a grateful American, Gary, and I am too. But we're also grateful for you, what you do. You show the best of America every day by the way you jump into the void and help our great men and women in the armed forces. What a great honor to have you on the show on this 4th of July.
I sure appreciate it. Thank you so much for having me. Happy 4th of July, everybody.
Thank you, sir. Wow, what a great guy. I'm so lucky to have him on. All right, we're going to take a quick commercial break. When we come back, we're going to do a little history. Why not? It's the 4th of July. We'll do that with the great Solomon Schmidt right after these messages. Hey, it's a new day in America and a new administration in Washington, D.C. There's a lot of excitement and optimism about the future, but the reality is there's a lot of work to do as well, especially when it comes to fixing our broken healthcare system. The truth is that the forces that are responsible for breaking our healthcare system aren't going to simply go away. The challenges our system faces won't disappear overnight. Now more than ever, you need to be prepared. That's where the Wellness Company comes in. Their doctors are medical professionals that you can trust, and their line of prescription medical kits are the gold standard when it comes to keeping you safe and healthy, as well as your family. Whether it's the medical emergency kit, the contagion kit, the first aid kit, or the travel kit, these prescription kits contain an assortment of life-saving medications and guidebooks to assist in the proper use of these medications. From the flu to strep throat, from COVID to the bird flu, from a trip to the beach to a trip overseas, the Wellness Company has a prescription kit designed to keep you and your family safe. Make America healthy again. Start at home. Do your part and protect the health of you and your family. Go to twc.health/justnews today and order. That's twc.health/justnews and use the promo code JUSTNEWS to save 10% off.
It's almost Independence Day, and all of America will be celebrating. But here in Real America's Voice, we want to celebrate you. Every day from June 30th through July 4th, we're giving away a handcrafted, hand-painted hardwood flag to one lucky RAV viewer. These beautiful flags come from YourAmericanFlagStore.com, where 10% of every purchase goes to Your American Flag Foundation. Scan the QR code to opt in for your chance to win and receive future RAV promotions from our hearts for your home. Use code RAV for free shipping.
Welcome back, everybody, to this very special 4th of July episode. And this 4th of July marks America's 249th birthday. Yes, we are getting very close to that very important 250th anniversary of our nation's founding next year. And with us to join to discuss why that is so important is the author of the History Bites book series, which is specifically written for young children, Solomon Schmidt. Solomon, great to have you here with us.
Same here. Thanks, Amanda. Pleasure to be here with you both. Bye, John.
It's wonderful to have you. Happy Independence Day. And, I think the first acquaintance we had with you was when you wrote Alan Dershowitz' book, his biography, and you did an amazing job with that. And now we're taking it back 249 years. Tell us about this bite-sized history series that you have about America's founding.
Will do. Yeah, I started it when I was 12. My first book is called U.S. History Bites. It overviews 30 of some of the most important events of American history from Columbus to modern day. And when you go back 249 years ago, what would you have seen in the summer of 1776? Well, when the founding fathers were in the State House in Philadelphia, Independence Hall, putting their signatures to the Declaration of Independence, an armada of 400 British ships and 32,000 highly trained soldiers were pulling into New York Harbor against 9,000 ragtag troops under George Washington. It's said so often that perhaps it becomes a bit cliched, but it is the ultimate David and Goliath story. That armada, that fleet of ships, was carrying an army equivalent today to about 4.5 million troops when you consider the fact that the 13 colonies had about 2.5 million people in them at the time. And the founders, it's pretty well known that signing the Declaration was kind of like signing a death warrant. The British military had a list of people who were supposed to get hung, among them John Adams. And John Adams himself tells us why they were doing this. He said around the time of the signing of the Declaration, a free constitution of a civil government essentially is worth dying for. And I think my mind is going back to not only the intellectuals and the great thinkers in Independence Hall, but the boys who ate lead, as you might say, the soldiers of the Continental Army who took cannon fire and musket fire, had their bodies ripped apart, were shivering, were sleep deprived, were hungry, and could have had a legitimate excuse. No one would have blamed them, in a sense, for thinking that this was a lost cause and going home. And the reason we're sitting here today in the United States of America is largely because of a few thousand men who stuck it out with George Washington in the days when it seemed like a lost cause against a superior force. So those are just some of the things that are coming to my mind on this Independence weekend. And folks can learn more about those events in my books, U.S. History Bites. I have a book on the presidents and another book on major wars from world history, overviewing wars from ancient times to the modern wars in the Middle East.
You are remarkable, prolific, but I also think you have found a way to deliver history for the next generation of folks who grew up in the social media era, the internet era. I love the way it's delivered. It's powerful, it's accurate, but it's also entertaining, and it's in enough of a size that people can digest it quickly and act on it. I was in visiting a state recently and run into a couple teenagers in a coffee shop. We struck up a conversation, and to my shock and amazement, they told me that in all of the history and social study courses they had taken, I think there were 15 and 14, they had never once discussed in a classroom the United States Constitution. I was numb. I mean, I was literally numb. I was like, I didn't know what to say. It seems to me this next year at the 250th birthday, restoring civics education and having a conversation about that could be really important. Tell us where we are in terms of civics literacy on the 249th birthday of America.
That's a great question, as they all are. I am not proficient in what's going on in the public school system. I was private schooled from K to 4 and was homeschooled from 5th to graduation. So I will just make a little plug for homeschoolers and say that I've been to about 50 homeschool conferences around the United States, southwest, north. The generation of homeschoolers that has been raised over the last 40 years are, without trying to brag about myself, remarkably well informed about civics history, American history, world history. And that's not to say that private school children and young people who go to public school aren't. But the homeschooling audience is certainly giving me a lot of hope. I meet 8, 9, 10-year-old, 11-year-old kids who know historic figures that I don't know, and they can tell you specific facts about them and understand and appreciate the greatness of this country. And that's not to say we haven't made mistakes. There were 500,000 slaves at the time of the signing of the Declaration. A third of the signers of the Declaration or so had slaves in their possession. And but to recognize the greatness of what we've been given, the ideals of the Declaration of Independence, which we've heard them all so many times, but this staggering claim that it is self-evident all men are created equal. What does that mean? It means that the ragtag troops from Maine or the backwoods have as much right to happiness as King George III. It's extraordinary. It's the basis for everything we are as a country, the basis for morality, the basis for success. It enables the weak to be protected against those who want to oppress them. Weak in the sense of, maybe without military force at their command, like the king, like tyrants. And it also enables the humblest of people, in a way, to become great, the American dream. So it's just a staggering document and so beautiful. When you hear that last line, that in support of this declaration, we mutually pledge to each other our lives, our fortunes, and our sacred honor. Think about the bond of love and unity. We pledge to each other our lives. They knew they could die. They knew they could have their necks broken from a hangman's noose. Our fortunes, our wealth, our lands, and our honor. It was important for them to have a good reputation, a good name, which, of course, is a biblical concept. You know, Proverbs talk about a good name is to be esteemed above riches. So we've been given such a heritage, goes without saying. And John Adams tells us that these days should be remembered, quote, solemnized with pomp and parade, shows, games, sports, bonfires, illuminations, with solemn acts of devotion to God Almighty. And this was him writing 249 years ago, predicting that such things would happen in the days to come, in the decades to come.
Yeah.
Pretty wise
I have a
guy.
feeling President Trump is going to check all of those off his list yet next year for the 250. Speaking of that, so about 3 weeks ago, we celebrated the Army's 250, but yesterday, the 3rd, was the anniversary of George Washington assuming the position of the commander of that force. George Washington, as our nation's first president, talk to us about why it's so important to study those first leaders of our nation.
Another cliche to say that George Washington was a great man. You don't have to take it from me. His rival, King George III, said when Washington agreed to, or not agreed to, decided of his own free will to leave the reins of power to someone else, to not pursue a third term, even though he was constitutionally allowed to do so and had the support of the people behind him. They loved him. He was voted in unanimously. King George III said that George Washington is the greatest person of the age. It's the old idea that those who don't want power are probably the ones who should have it.
Yes.
George Washington has been described as magnanimous, as kind and gracious to those lesser than him, lesser in power and stature, and rivals on the battlefield. He never showed a lack of confidence in front of his men, although privately he expressed doubts. He had moments of weakness in which he thought that perhaps they just couldn't go on and that it was going to end disastrously. But in front of the men, he displayed confidence. He was there with them in Valley Forge through the winter, through the snow. So we study these early leaders because they were great people. John Adams, what John Adams had to endure and suffer, what his wife, our founding mothers, had to suffer. Abigail Adams watched the destruction of her home state of Massachusetts. She and her kids had to flee for their lives and brave winters with British soldiers nearby, with armies marching through, with so many deprivations, illnesses, and so we had a generation of uniquely gifted, uniquely wise, uniquely courageous, and uniquely people of unique foresight. They knew that they were serving future generations. Absolutely. You can read that in their letters. They knew that the decisions they were making would have ramifications for us. That's the staggering thing. John Adams wrote in a letter in July 1776 that this moment in our history should be celebrated from one end of the continent to the other. He foresaw a country that would be from east to west at a time when the 13 colonies took up, the eastern seaboard of the United States. It's a staggering level of vision, and it's humbling.
It is.
I think.
I still got to say, though, I'm still a little mad at Martha Washington, though, because she destroyed practically all of the letters with George. So
Yeah,
I'm a little
what
upset
a
about
loss, huh? Oh, I like John Adams. Listen, a portly, intemperate, balding New Englander, that's my type of guy. Just want to point that out. So,
Solomon Schmidt, that was such a wonderful, wonderful segment. Thank you so much for joining us. And everybody, go buy all of his books available anywhere where you
History
can
Bites
purchase.
is an amazing thing. Get it for your children.
Yep. All right, everybody, we're going to continue this special 4th of July show coming up after this break.
Hey, folks, you might be wondering, when's the right time to start adding collagen to my diet? How about today? Collagen production starts to dwindle in your 20s, and by the time you hit your 50s like me, it's decreased and it contributes to wrinkles, sagging skin, and joint discomfort. Now, Native Path Collagen can help. It's packed with only type 1 and 3 collagen fibers, the ones your body needs most for healthy joints, for healthy skin, bones, hair, nails, and also, believe it or not, your gut. Plus, it's third-party tested for purity and with no fillers, no additives, and no artificial junk. That's important to me. 2 scoops a day of Native Path delivers 18 grams of protein. Mix it into your coffee, your tea, your soup, or any drink. It's completely flavorless and easy to use. Right now, you can get a special bundle deal at the fraction of the retail price. Plus, you're going to get free shipping. Available at getnativepath.com/justnews. That's getnativepath.com/justnews. With over 4 million jars sold, thousands of 5-star reviews, and a 365-day money-back guarantee, this is your moment to take control of aging before symptoms get worse. So go to getnativepath.com/justnews right now. Supplies are limited and demand is surging. That's getnativepath.com/justnews.
It's almost Independence Day, and all of America will be celebrating. But here in Real America's Voice, we want to celebrate you. Every day from June 30th through July 4th, we're giving away a handcrafted, hand-painted hardwood flag to one lucky RAV viewer. These beautiful flags come from YourAmericanFlagStore.com, where 10% of every purchase goes to Your American Flag Foundation. Scan the QR code to opt in for your chance to win and receive future RAV promotions from our hearts for your home. Use code RAV for free shipping.
All right, I'm going to go out on a limb and say that you probably recognize that song, but if you didn't, what you just heard was a song that we played for you before from the Duggar Band titled True Colors. That song was reportedly censored by a TV station in Nashville who refused to play it for political bias reasons. And we highlighted this story for you back in May, and because it's our nation's birthday today, we thought it would be a good time to bring back the men behind that song, Jordan and Seth Duggar of the Duggar Band. And they have some exciting news about a huge music festival that is in the works, but also on Fox News, we are so excited to celebrate this day with you guys. Happy 4th of July.
Hey, thanks for having us. We appreciate it. Yeah, happy 4th.
Absolutely. So I know that our audience was bopping their head and tapping their toes as they were listening to that song. I love the patriotic theme to it. You know what, let's rewind to the inception of why we had you guys on this show to begin with. When you guys were censored, you know, that song, I've listened to it numerous times. It is a patriotic anthem. It talks about Old Glory, talks about the red, white, and blue. I don't understand what is political about that. Did you guys ever get an answer from that Nashville radio station about what was so politically biased about it?
We never received specific information about what the station saw as being biased. So, yeah, we're still trying to figure that out ourselves. So
still in the dark, hey? Yeah, something tells me that they don't want to answer that question, and probably someone higher up made the decision. All right, so you guys are doing a Fox News, basically a patriotic show for them. Tell us all about this.
yeah, we're excited. We've been invited to be a part of their Independence Day special tonight at 8 o'clock. And we're going to be in Times Square just putting on a show. We're actually playing this song and a couple bumpers, so y'all be on the lookout for that. We're excited to be in New York. We're excited to be able to be a part of this event, and we're glad that Fox asked us to be the special guest.
That's so awesome. Okay, so tell me about what this is going to look like visually, because when I think of, you know, Times Square, big events taking place there, I'm thinking of, you know, New Year's Eve and they block off all the streets and such. Are there going to be fans there, or is Fox News just using Times Square as kind of like the backdrop?
We've been told that for security purposes, there won't be a live audience for our performance, but it's going to be a great time. We're going to rock it out. We can't wait, and hope that you guys will tune in and check us out.
That's so awesome. So is it all country artists, or is it a mix? What's that like?
I believe from what I've heard that we're the only artist that's performing. So we're excited about that. It's going to be from 8 o'clock to 11 o'clock. So right in prime time, and they're going to be going all over the country, seeing how different people are celebrating the 4th, and then we'll be performing right there in front of the News Corporation there, right in Times Square. So we're excited about that. We'll have our full band with us. We're playing True Colors and a couple other songs there tonight. Yeah.
That's so exciting. Well, you're the headliners. That's amazing. All right. So when you say you're full band, how many pieces do you have?
Well, for this performance, there's just going to be 4 of us. We did a little bit scaled down version. We're pretty for up and coming bands or newer bands. You have to be flexible. So sometimes it's just me and Seth. Like today, I think we're going to be playing a song for you guys, just the 2 of us. But then for certain events, we have much bigger bands. So for this one in particular, it'll be 4 of us.
I love it. I love it. And you guys obviously love America to a granular degree, because back in November, you guys headlined for a Hurricane Helene fundraiser. Tell us about that.
Yeah, so Hurricane Helene, I'm sure a lot of people have seen that in the news. It impacted our community pretty hard. And in East Tennessee and West North Carolina, there was a lot of people impacted by it. And we were just trying to figure out a way to kind of give back to the people in our small town of Greenville that were really impacted by it. We did a concert for them. And it's, something small that we're able to do, but, to see the recovery efforts continuing to happen, and it's going to be years. I know that they've just reopened a couple of the bridges just a couple weeks ago, and that was a big thing in Greenville for that particular bridge to be opened. But it's going to take years to completely rebuild. We drive through the town, and you still see trees piled up along the riverbank, just new riverbanks from where the river cut new paths in the ground. It's just insane to think about a mountain flooding like that, but it happened, and we're still holding strong. But there's a lot of help. There's a lot of people that's really coming together in our community and doing their part to try to clean things up, and it's just awesome to see everybody come together.
Yeah, absolutely. I don't want to get political, but I do want to get patriotic. So when you guys are out and about and you're talking to fans and people who are out having a good time, they want to come listen to your music, which does have, even if it's subliminal in a lot of your songs, that patriotic theme. Do you feel like people are more optimistic about the direction of this country? Because I got to say, I've seen a lot of these polls, and polls show that a smaller and smaller portion of this country characterize themselves as extremely patriotic or proud to be an American. But I have to say, it seems like, maybe it's because President Trump is in town. I don't know what it is, but it seems like people have a little bit more of an upbeat mentality. Maybe it's just because it's about to be a long weekend.
I think we've definitely seen a lot of enthusiasm. We have a lot of enthusiasm. I think the outlook for our country is great, and we're proud to be living in the USA. It's the greatest country in the world.
Indeed,
and
it is.
We've met so many people, and it's just the impact of music as writers and musicians. Sometimes you don't realize it until you get out and talk to the fans and see how it's affected them. But we've met, in particular, one gentleman that served I think for like 20 or 30 years, and he was retired. But he said that him and his whole group that he had served with had been following the story of this song. And we actually randomly met him. We weren't even scheduled to play at the show that we attended here in Nashville for one of our friends, and they brought us up on stage and we played a song. He came up to us afterwards and was telling us about how they'd been following the story and how they were proud that our generation was taking a stand and proud of our country. And I was like, man, that's the least that we can do from our end, is to write songs that mean something to the men and women that have served this country. We haven't served. We have played music for those who serve in the military, but the sacrifices those people make is just unreal. And the fact that a song that we wrote has some impact on them is just, it's amazing for us. And we hope that we can continue to be a positive influence on people.
Absolutely. That's really, really special. And I'm sure that there are a lot of veterans out there who just absolutely love your music, and maybe they don't see you in person and they don't have the chance to express it personally, but I people absolutely love your music, and I would imagine that it really hits home for our service members. Seth and Jordan Duggar, guys, before we head out tonight, I hear you have a song for us, right?
Yes.
Yeah. Awesome.
I think that it's fitting that we play True Colors on July 4th. So play it for you right now, acoustic
Awesome.
version of it.
Thank you, guys.
looking down while I'm looking up. You're just sitting there sipping on a Starbucks cup, hating on everything, not doing anything. I crank up some Toby Keith, climb back in my truck, and it don't matter where the chips may fall. That Statue of Liberty will be standing tall. The best part about the land of the free is if you don't like it, you're free to leave. But I ain't leaving it. I'm an 8th generation God-fearing blue collar with a flag waving, and I don't wait for the 4th of July. This year out, lifelong American pride, and ride it right now. Join the line. If this country ain't something you can stand behind, then that's the difference between me and you. 'Cause my true colors are red, white, and blue. Yeah, my pappy served in that Second World War. I ain't ever given up all that he fought for. And if you're coming here aiming to take what we got, we gonna fight, 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 gonna take your shine. But I ain't leaving here. I'm an 8th generation God-fearing blue collar with a flag waving, and I don't wait for the 4th of July. This year out, lifelong American pride, and ride it right now. Join the line. If this country ain't something you can stand behind, then that's the difference between me and you. 'Cause my true colors are red, white, and blue. Red, white, and blue. Red, white, and blue. God bless the U.S. of A. I ain't leaving you. I'm an 8th generation God-fearing blue collar with a flag waving, and I don't wait for the 4th of July. It's year out, lifelong American pride. Ride it right now. Join the line. If this country ain't something you can stand behind, then that's the difference between me and you. 'Cause my true colors are right here, right now. Join the line. If this country ain't something.
Welcome back, everybody, to our Independence Day special. It's really refreshing to see more young Americans, especially Gen Z, starting to feel proud of their country again. You can sense a shift. President Trump has played a big part, I think, in causing this shift with Gen Z. So joining us now to discuss that is campus reform reporter Emily Sturge. Emily, welcome back and happy 4th of July.
Happy 4th of July. Thank you so much for having me.
We're delighted to have you, especially on this day. And, you know, I see two competing things happening. One is that you look at polling and it says with every generation we get less and less patriotic. And yet I see so much content online of young Americans, Gen Z, being more patriotic. What's true?
I'll tell you what I see, and I see bipartisan optimism. A CBS News poll from earlier this year surveyed all of the generations and found that actually it was Generation Z, the youngest generation surveyed, that had the most optimism with President Trump back in office. 67% of 18 to 29-year-olds said that they had hope about this administration. And I think that goes back to the number one issue in the November 2024 election that got Donald Trump elected was the economy. Young people are hopeful that this president is going to bring back the American dream, make it easier for them to buy a home, start a family, get settled down, invest in the stock market. It's those economic ideas that I think is driving this optimism on both the left and the right among young people.
Yeah, that's a really great point. And there's not only just the traditional economy, like 4 consecutive months of good job report, above expectation jobs reports, but there's a new economy forming around us, right? You've got the crypto economy coming around us, and President Trump has really pushed out on ideas that seem to be the economic future for Gen Zers. How important has it been that one of our oldest presidents has leaned into some of the newest ideas for the economy?
That's a great point. And I want to point out, I see two different things that lots of Gen Zers bring up when I interview them. And as a reporter for the Leadership Institute Campus Reform, I'm talking to members of Generation Z every single day. Just within the past week, I talked to dozens. I hear lots of people bring up the economy, the golden age, crypto, investing. And then I also hear lots of young women specifically bring up cultural issues. They bring up the nuclear family. They bring up traditional gender roles. And then both young men and young women bring up faith. There's a religious revival happening among members of my generation. It's something that we are seeing on college campuses. Catholicism specifically, we are seeing a spike in. And that's because young people are looking for tradition and order. And that goes back to rejecting progressive leftist social values that took over our society for so many years.
Yeah, sure.
Emily, I love the optimism in our economy, and we just had the jobs reports come out and the unemployment numbers, and things are looking better, and that economy seems to be driving forward. But something that is going backwards, it seems like, is civic education. And John was just telling me about an anecdote from where he was this past weekend.
Yeah.
Kids have been absolutely failed. Gen Z as well, when it comes to education about our government and how it works, and even our founding history. Do you find that among those students and those Gen Z folks who are feeling a renewed sense of patriotism, that there's also an autodidactic zest to learn more about our founders, even if they're not taught it in school?
I want to be clear, the patriotic low that we saw among Gen Zers just a few years ago, back in 2023, a Gallup poll showed a patriotic low of just 18% of Gen Zers were proud to be an American. That's exactly it. It was a product of the education system. It was a product of the lack of civics in our education system. It also had to do with diversity, equity, and inclusion, critical race theory, progressive propaganda like LGBTQ ideology being taught in our middle schools, our high schools, in the higher education system, instead of that classic civics education. Now we are seeing under this administration, some of those American ideas are being brought back to the education system. Just within the last few weeks, we saw the Department of Education move forward. They're promoting new grants to get back to an education that talks about our founding documents. We're also seeing civic centers open on college campuses across this country. I saw at the University of Florida, my own campus that I just graduated from, we had a civic center open there. So I do think that there is a revival happening, bringing back American education, bringing back a civics education to get the next generation of leaders prepared to lead this country.
Yeah, so important. 250th birthday starts officially today, and we have this extraordinary year celebration. What are some of the opportunities to take that sort of iconic moment in history and bring history back to America, bring civics back to America? Because I think the conversation is going to go towards our founding and some of the things that our maybe young people weren't taught by their teachers.
Absolutely. And I want to bring up my home state of Florida. We just saw end of year testing there. 71% of young kids there were proficient in their civics education. That's a really remarkable statistic, especially as we've seen nationwide statistics really drop to new lows when it comes to reading, when it comes to math, when it comes to civics. So I like to look at the education system in Florida, look at how I was educated as a young kid in Florida, and see that the civics education there seems to be really working. Maybe other states should start to look in that direction too, so that they can bump up those numbers of kids proficient in civics too.
Yeah. Considering all the news stories we see about Florida men, I never thought I'd say this, but I hope that children who are raised by Florida men and women ultimately end up leading this country with statistics like that. I want to ask you about something that you mentioned a little while ago, the DEI, diversity, equity, and inclusion. Does Gen Z see that as something as valuable as the people who are trying to institute it, or do they see it as something that's kind of frivolous and ludicrous and shouldn't factor into qualifications for someone to be hired or chosen for something?
I think more and more Gen Zers are turning their backs on DEI because it infiltrated every single aspect of our education, our churches, even our media, our books, our television, our songs, Hollywood. But back to college campuses, it infiltrated every single aspect, from when a student applies to a university, when they have to write those essays that many colleges required based on how they promote DEI throughout their daily lives. Then when they get onto campus, campus initiatives, all of this spending on diversity, equity, and inclusion, all of these required courses on DEI, and then those graduation requirements too. So it follows them throughout their entire college education. And now we're seeing more and more Gen Zers turn their backs to it, say that this isn't working. This is promoting toxic divides among races. This isn't making us proud of our country when we're being taught these toxic leftist ideas in our education system. And only as we've begun to extract those progressive propaganda from our education system is when we've seen this restoration of patriotism among young people.
Yeah,
Funny how that works.
I know. Isn't that funny? It's really great to see, especially today of all days. Emily Sturge, campus reform reporter. Thanks for bringing that good news.
Thank you so much for having me, and happy 4th of July.
Same to you. Same to you. All right, everybody, we're going to be back on this very special 4th of July edition here on Just the News, No Noise.
It's almost Independence Day, and all of America will be celebrating. But here in Real America's Voice, we want to celebrate you. Every day from June 30th through July 4th, we're giving away a handcrafted, hand-painted hardwood flag to one lucky RAV viewer. These beautiful flags come from YourAmericanFlagStore.com, where 10% of every purchase goes to Your American Flag Foundation. Scan the QR code to opt in for your chance to win and receive future RAV promotions from our hearts for your home. Use code RAV for free shipping.
Welcome back, everybody. All right, since we talked about the lack of civic education in this country, if you want to really inspire your kids to fall in love with the founding of this country, I cannot recommend enough Mount Vernon. John, since I have moved here to Washington, I have had the pleasure of going there numerous times, and just a word to the wise, most of the house is blocked off right now because they found, I think, some termites in the foundation, and anticipating how many people will be here next year, they are closing it off and fixing it in the meantime. But you get to see the crop rotation, the genius of George Washington as a farmer. Most people don't even think of him as a farmer. But also, this shocked the you-know-what out of me. It says, the tomb. And I'm thinking, okay, well, it's underground or it's behind, big vaulted doors.
Right over the fence.
It is 2 feet beyond bars that you look through, and there's his sarcophagus right next to Martha. It's incredible. He's right there.
Yeah, no, it's an amazing. Solomon Schmidt did a great job in the show today, reminding us this was a giant of American history, a giant of a man.
Yeah, of a man, yeah.
Who accomplished the unthinkable, slaying the giant British Army with this ragtag team of American soldiers, gave us his great country, and then when handed the presidency, realized the right thing to do was humbly give it back after 8 years and not create the notion of a king. Those are the type of men and women that founded this country, and 249 years later, we're chugging strong because we were built on such a good foundation. No termites in that founding of the country, I'll tell you.
Yeah, and I just tested it out. If you search for AI Redcoats on social media, a video will come up that is hilarious. It is a redcoat. I don't know if it was Cornwallis, whoever it is. And he has a selfie video camera, and he's running from what I can assume is Daniel Morgan's riflemen, because he talks about how scattered they were in the woods and how they were picking them off. So that sounds like Daniel Morgan's riflemen, but he's like, man, these people really love their taxes. It's hilarious. And he said, I don't understand why they're not all standing in a perfect line, all wearing the same brightly colored uniforms. It's really hilarious, and it's kind of a modern world take on.
I'm checking it out. What's it called?
Just search for AI Redcoats, and it'll. Someone made this video out of AI, but it's funny elements of it that show the genius of our founding and the providential aspect of it too.
It's amazing. It's the most improbable founding of a country you could possibly imagine, and that's something that we have to cherish and pass on to the next generation.
Absolutely. So, all right, everybody, thank you so much for joining us for this 4th of July edition of the show. Everybody be safe this weekend. Make sure you have all 10 fingers at the end of the weekend, and then we will see you on Monday.
It's almost Independence Day, and all of America will be celebrating. But here in Real America's Voice, we want to celebrate you. Every day from June 30th through July 4th, we're giving away a handcrafted, hand-painted hardwood flag to one lucky RAV viewer. These beautiful flags come from YourAmericanFlagStore.com, where 10% of every purchase goes to Your American Flag Foundation. Scan the QR code to opt in for your chance to win and receive future RAV promotions. From our hearts for your home.